So, good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for introduction. My name is indeed Daniil Litosh. I'm a TEDxKIMEP graduate, School of Law, previous year. Currently studying in BCB, so you see that TEDxKIMEP doesn't let me go. I'm also a practicing legal associate at UniCase law firm, and it will be an honor for me to speak here in front of you today. But before we begin, I have a quick but important question to you. What are the industries in which you think Kazakhstan has the most proportion of women employed? Sections, fields, yeah. Teaching, right. Teaching, medicine, healthcare. Any other ideas? Don't be shy. Just you may guess. Business, all right. Okay. So now we have these three propositions. And in fact, according to the official statistics proposed by the Prime Minister, it's actually healthcare, good, 76% goes first. Then it's education, 75%. We have a really shining star here today. As for business, I would say it's more diluted because we have accommodation and food services at 72%, trade 61%, finance and insurance services 61%, and professional, academic and scientific activity 52%. Sounds like discrimination. But putting the jokes aside, let us begin. I'm glad that I managed to surprise you. So today we are gathered here to discuss a really interesting topic at the intersection of social progress in Kazakhstan and feminism. And I would like to point out from the beginning that the real question is not whether we should support women's rights or not. Of course we should, as part of human rights that apply equally both to men and women. Then what is the true question? The true question is, should Kazakhstan in particular pursue the equality of opportunity or the equality of outcome? My speech will be structured in the following ways so that you will be able to follow me. First, I will briefly introduce the differences in concepts of equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. Then we will transfer to the steps that Kazakhstan government undertakes in order to promote women's role in our society. We will have a critical analysis whether there is anything wrong about it, and what can we do about it. So let us begin. The equality of opportunity and the equality of outcome. The equality of opportunity means that everyone, regardless of his or her gender, ethnicity, religious affiliation, has the same access. I point out access to education, careers, and leadership roles. It tries to ensure that we are creating a merit-based society where everyone can succeed based on their efforts, talents, and ambitions. And I would like to refer to a Nobel Prize-winning economist, James Heckman, which in his book, Giving Kids a Fair Chance, notes that the equality of opportunity provides a fair playing ground where individuals can succeed based on their merits and not due to artificial constraints into our society. Okay, the equality of opportunity, we got it. Now let's transfer to the equality of outcome. And the equality of outcome tries to ensure that in each and every field of human activity, there is equal representation, numerical representation of men, women, or you may select any other category. But unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't pay that much of attention to individual choices, abilities, and so on. And I would like to cite Mr. Hayek, philosopher Friedrich Hayek, that in his work, The Road to Serfdom, warned against the approach that current radical feminists, no prejudice, pointing out that men are imposing oppressive society because they control more wealth, they have higher wages, but Mr. Hayek already in the last century said that a claim for equality of material position can be met only by a government with totalitarian powers. So where are we heading? What do we prioritize? Indeed, the true empowerment, or by the freedom of choice, or specifically aspiring to create certain numerical representation. Okay, now we understand the difference between the equality of opportunity and the equality of outcome. We're all good. Now let us pass to steps that Kazakhstan takes in order to promote women's rights. And of course, there are a lot of instances, and we could argue about it a lot, but I have identified three most important ones that I consider the most vital in the last 10 years. And the first is that in 2020, we have an amendment to the law on elections being introduced, which says that 30% quotas for youth, disabled people, and women are introduced to political parties. So from the beginning, we state that women probably are not that competitive and not properly represented in the parliament. Well, I have certain questions to that. The second is that we have state-backed programs for businesses. Our Damu state fund has the subsidizing loan programs for women in business, especially in small and medium entrepreneurship in cooperation with the second-tier banks like Halik, Eurasian, Central Credit. But again, entirely I cannot see the point, because according to the official statistics, in the structure of the small and medium enterprises, Kazakhstan has 44% of women that own small and medium business. And we surpass many other countries in this aspect. For example, the United States of America, they have 40% of leadership in ownership in small and medium business, according to the statistics of the United States International Trade Commission. France, 25%, according to the statistics of the Banque de France. And the third one, which is the removal, and I would say the most important one, the removal of the list of jobs that women cannot take. It was removed in 2021, and since then, our women now can be employed in such spheres as heavy industry, machinery, engineering, construction, mining. You got the idea. So, at first glance, it sounds very optimistic, because of course we have certain policies that are empowering women. But let me tell you a story. When I was preparing for this talk, doing my research, having rehearsals, I approached my mother and asked her whether she personally, being a person who worked in the public health care her entire life, benefited from any of those policies. She said no. On the contrary, that's a funny situation. When my mother was pregnant with me, there was an amendment to the labor law introduced, which actually cut twice the unpaid leave for childcare that a mother could take on her work to 1.5 years, so twice cut. But Thankfully, it was later restored, but it didn't matter anyway. What do we have at the end of the day? That is the question that we should ask ourselves. And the fact is that according to the World Economics Forum 2024 Global Gender Gaps Index, all the countries are evaluated on their compliance or on their achievements in the gender equality. They have 146 countries. What do you think, which place Kazakhstan takes out of that 146? 39, right? Okay. Dasha is very optimistic today. It's actually, in 2024, it was 76. And I'll tell you more. That is a decline from 62nd in 2023 and 65th in 2022. So we are trying to implement certain policies, but where are the results? Why does our rating goes down, not up? And the answer is because those policies are based on the equality of outcome rather than the equality of opportunity. And there are certain issues about that. So let us go over those issues. The quota-based hiring undermines the meritocracy in our country. If positions in the parliament, maybe one of the most crucial institutions in our country, has to be distributed among certain people having no regard to their qualification, what can we talk about at the end of the day when it comes to the most vital decisions for ourselves? Moreover, it disrespects the talent and ambition of women and men that work hard and deserve their positions there. The second is that we are ignoring personal choices and interests. To assume that every discrepancy, every disproportion comes from the discrimination, well, that's for sure and the easiest approach. We don't have to analyze any other facts, but let us think that is it generally possible for a particular man and a particular woman to choose their profession based on the personal skills, ambitions, and interests? Of course, it's possible. And this does not always mean that there is an oppression. It simply means that we are all different and have our own preferences. And finally, the enforcing equal representation in all fields can actually discourage women from entering certain fields. Because by entering, for example, in this case, small and medium enterprises, by entering parliament, they receive certain social, economic, financial incentives and benefits. But as previous speaker noted, thank you, Sabina, very much, that we should pursue our internal voice, what it tells us, the profession we really love, and not certain monetary aspects. Therefore, to conclude the analysis, the drop in the ratings suggests that we should pursue other policy. The equality of outcome doesn't work, at least here in Kazakhstan, and those are the facts. And if those are the facts, what can we do about it? What is the solution? What is the magical pill? Yeah. And that is, in my opinion, is the high quality education, both to men and women. And that is because when people get equal access to education, based from the young age, schools, universities, they grow naturally into professionals choosing their occupation based on their interests. And they also earning some good money there as well. And that argument is also supported by some evidence. We have OECD Education at Glance report of 2023. That suggests that countries that invest equal in education of boys and girls from an early age see more balanced workforce distribution without any need for external intervention. So by ensuring that every boy and girl in Kazakhstan has equal access to high quality education, we can achieve two things. The first is we encourage a balanced workforce, as I stated. And the second is that we develop future female leaders, because with having the tools, the knowledge to compete with men, they will naturally develop into leaders that people will follow due to their competence. And that is also confirmed by the OECD report I cited. And at the end of the day, we should focus on the freedom of choice, as we have just mentioned. There were certain arguments presented here that we should encourage women to enter into the STEM fields. However, let me cite an interesting research by you, to you. And that study, countries with greater gender equality have a lower percentage of female STEM graduates, conducted in 2018, found that countries with higher gender equality, the majority of them is for sure Scandinavian countries, they actually face lower rates of women entering into STEM fields. So it means that when given freedom of choice, a fair playing ground, people decide to get employed in what places they want, how they want, and when they want. If you are still not satisfied, let me cite another one. The Cato Institute report of 2018 says that only 28% of managers in Denmark are women, 32% in Finland and Norway, and 36% in Sweden. But the United States of America, being lower in gender equality than each of those countries, has a higher rate of women in leadership roles in business, 40%. But before we conclude, let me make, I wouldn't call it a counter argument to my argument, but an interesting point, I would say. We shouldn't pursue the argumentation that I just did, because we are selecting a tiny substrata and try to project it on the entire structure of our society. And that's what, unfortunately, nowadays radical feminists do. They're saying that men control more wealth, they get higher wages, but due to the oppressive patriarchal culture and structure of our society, I hope that I cited it correctly. But again, projecting, picking up specific numbers that favor your argument without taking a look at the entire picture does not make a good argument. So, to conclude, I would like to say that Kazakhstan is moving towards the right direction. We are trying to empower women, implement certain policies. But what we actually need is not equality of outcome, but equality of opportunity. Our women are strong. They're already thriving in politics, in business, in education. And we should not force them into specific roles by providing economic, social incentives or imposing quotas. We should provide them with tools to compete fairly on the playground. That is, the future of Kazakhstan, of our country, lies in fair competition, freedom of choice, and genuine meritocracy. Thank you. That's it on my side.